Hello YouTube, welcome back to the life of a virtual airline pilot with me, Captain Mac. We left off last time after a relatively decent landing in Phoenix, flying back down there from Sholo. You may remember our first flight, we flew up to Sholo, we had all kinds of crazy crosswinds. We touched down in the aircraft and that crosswind caught us and that airplane started skipping and sliding all over the runway. It turned sideways. Passengers were in the back screaming. Babies were puking all over the place. Our poor co-pilot passed out in the seat next to us. Crash fire rescues rushing out to foam down the airplane. But thanks to my mad skills in the left seat, we managed to right the aircraft and taxi safely off the runway. And after that, earned ourselves a place in PVA fame. Just kidding. Seriously though, we're actually getting ready for our third flight now. We're still a young probationary first officer, as you can see here. We only got a couple hours of real flight time going on, not even 2 full hours. 18 hours and 3 minutes to go, and we will be a full-fledged first officer that'll let us fly jets, because that's what we want to do, right? Really what we want to do is get up to flying 777s and the good stuff like that. But the turboprops are a lot of fun, and we're going to find out today. We got us a pretty decent little flight from Phoenix over to KSVC, which is Silver City, New Mexico, with Great Lakes Airlines. So we're going to hop over real quick to the PVA cars window, make sure we got our flight set up and ready to go, and then we'll get started. So I shall see you shortly. Okay, here we are, our A-Cars screen. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and grabbed the bid for our next flight, Great Lakes Airlines, Flight 7307. We're just going to do a real quick setup here. We've gone over all this information before. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at it, check out my PVA cars tutorial video, and that'll explain all these awesome functions to you. We're not too worried about the route that we're picking on here. We'll just see there's one previous route, so we're going to go ahead and just throw that on there just so we have something. Set up our flight, and we've got a total distance here of 200 miles. We're going to be able to get up pretty high, so let's go ahead and just take it all the way on up to, let's see, we're flying eastbound, so that's going to be an odd number. So let's go up to 21,000 feet. That beach 1900 will make it up there. And we're ready to go. A-Cars is all set up. All we need to do is finish setting up our sim, and we will start the flight here once that's done, and we will be ready to go. So I'll see you over there. Okay, here we are. We got our sim loaded up. We've got the flight loaded. Flight plan is ready to go. We've got A-Cars started, and we are just about ready to kick off our before start checklist. Before we do that, 2 bits of news I want to share with you. The first, and certainly the most important of the 2, is I got a new PC. I've got a system that was custom built, and it is built to run FSX. Now, it's FSX. We still can't really max out the settings. We could probably do some more tweaks with it and whatnot and find a way to max it out, but we'll play around with that as we go. But for now, our graphics are going to be a lot better. Our frame rates are going to be a lot better, and hopefully it's going to make these videos a lot better for you. The other bit of news, we are on our 3rd flight in our virtual airline career, and it is only appropriate that we start doing things as much as possible the right way. That being said, we're not going to do an actual walk around of the aircraft because we can't physically walk around. There's really nothing we can actually check other than visually looking at the aircraft, which, by the way, this is a beautiful looking airplane. But we are going to do our before engine start checklist, we're going to do our after start checklist, and we're going to do our before taxi and our before takeoff and after takeoff and so on and so forth. We're going to go through all our checklists. We're going to do our best to follow procedures properly. We still won't be using ATC because we don't have a good ATC program. I know there's a few out there that are alright. You probably already know how I feel about those by now. They're okay. But they're not fantastic, so until something comes out that really grabs me, I think I'm just going to wait on the air traffic control. But beyond that, we're going to try and do things the right way. So let's go ahead and hop on in here. We've already done our walk around. We're going to hop into the flight deck here, and we are going to get ready to kick off our before start checklist. So let's just hop on down here. For those of you who do not remember, this is These views here, I can hop around like this. That's fantastic. It's called Easy Dock Camera. Once again, that's Easy Dock Camera. I'll try to remember to put a description and a link, or a link down below in the description of the video, and feel free to look that up. It's a fantastic program. Lets me hop around my views like that. It can be used with your Track IR if you happen to have that. I have it, but I don't typically use it. That's a different discussion. We'll get into that another time. So let's go ahead and kick off our before start checklist here. We've already verified that our cabin and our cargo doors are closed and locked. All of our baggage is loaded. Weight and center of gravity is taken care of. Emergency exits are secure. Ground lock pins have been removed. Control locks have been removed. Seats are in their right and proper position. We have our seat belts and shoulder harnesses on and in place. As you can see, our parking brake is on. Emergency instrument lights. It says to check them. Still haven't figured out where that one is. So, waiting on something down in the comments. Please let me know. Standby attitude indicator and co-pilot's electronic altimeter. We're supposed to check it, but it's kind of hard to check something that this is the electronic altimeter. Can't do anything with it when the battery hasn't been turned on yet. And we're not going to be caging or uncaging anything because that's not simulated in this aircraft. The IFAS auxiliary power needs to be checked. That's this guy right here. It doesn't actually do anything. Can't test it, can't check it, can't flip it, can't do nothing. But we'll pretend we did. So now we're on to the pilot's instrument panel and sub panel. Clock is supposed to be set. We're not going to be using it. I'm not too worried about it. Battery needs to come on. That's the main battery here. That is on. We need to make sure the engine anti-ice switches are both on. You may recall from previous videos, for all ground operations, especially when the engines are running, your engine anti-ice switches are supposed to be on. That's to prevent debris from getting into the engines. Oh, let's see here. Oxygen, yeah, I can't even talk. Oxygen, right? Oxygen control needs to be on. This is the oxygen control. Look at that, it's on. And we can also put on the cabin oxygen control right here. Landing gear. Landing gear is down. All our lights are green. We're good to go on our landing gear. The alternate extension handle, that's another one I haven't been able to find, folks. So please, if you know where it's at, leave something down in the comments because I'd like to be able to add that in there. And now we can hop straight on up to our overhead panel. And our mic selector switches need to be on normal. That's these guys right here. Normal and normal. Good to go. Master panel lights are normal. That's this guy right here. So normal right now is off. I'm sorry, it says as required. They put these things so close together on the checklist, it's hard to see. As required, we don't need them because it's daytime, so we're going to leave them off. And let's see, beacon light needs to be set to ground. That's the anti-collision light right here. Okay, if you see, if I click it that way, it's on flight right now. I need to right click it all the way down to ground. It is there. We should be good to go. Battery voltage, check. Okay, let's check the battery voltage. There's external power. Let's see, battery. All right, so basically we have three different things we're checking here. We're checking the battery, the TPL bus, and the center bus. The battery is supposed to be a minimum of 23 volts. All right, so there's the battery. That looks like 23 to me. TPL bus is 22 and the center bus is 23. So you see we're on the TPL bus right now. It is 22. This one's the center bus. We want to come back over here, center bus, and that's 23. So we're good to go on all of those, right? Glare shield panel. That's this guy right here in case you're wondering. Annunciator lights, we need to check those, and there is supposed to be a test for the annunciator lights, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure where it's at. Shame on me. If you know where the annunciator light test switch is at, please throw it down in the comments. It should be this one here, actually. Standby instrument power. Yep. Afraid I don't know where it's at. So let me know. Maybe it's not simulated in the aircraft. That does happen. They do a pretty good job on some of these payware, but they don't necessarily get everything in there. So we're not going to worry about the annunciator lights. The avionics panel is supposed to be set as required. There's nothing to do with that right now because our avionics are turned off. So now we're going to hop down to the center console, or the pedestal here. And the power levers are supposed to be at idle. Let's make sure they are at idle. Remember, this is reverse down here. We don't want them in reverse. We want them at idle. So we want to be right there with our power levers. Propeller levers are supposed to be in the taxi detent, which is actually just above the feather detent here. So that's where we want them, right there. And we could always just move them together by using our handy dandy throttle quadrant over here. Condition levers are supposed to be in fuel cutoff, which is exactly where they're at. And then you would, of course, set the friction on these. There's a way to adjust the friction on how hard it is to move these different levers, but the friction is not simulated in the aircraft, and that's all right, not a big deal. Aileron trim and rudder trim are both supposed to be at 0. So here's our rudder trim and our aileron trim. So let's just go ahead and check those out. That's 0 and that's 0, and we are good to go. You may remember in a previous video I was telling you that sometimes, even though it technically looks like this knob should be over to the left a little bit more, it is at 0. So we're good to go on that one. And the IFAS power switches are supposed to be off. That's these guys right here, and they are off. IFAS reversionary panel. Not sure what that one is. I think it's supposed to be this one, but again, I've never flown a real Beech 1900, so I could be a little bit wrong on that. Rudder boost. Rudder boost is this guy right here, and just so you know, that is the off position. We want to turn the rudder boost into the on position. Elevator trim, that is this guy right here, and we want to set it for takeoff. Anti-skid is not simulated, in case you're wondering. There is no anti-skid switch in here, and there's no flashlight in here. And then we'll hop over to the co-pilot's instrument panel real quick, and we're going to check the clock and the compass over there. That's what we would do. The bleed air valves need to be closed. That's these guys right here, and that is open, and that is closed all the way down. So we've got those closed. Blowers need to be auto. That's these guys right here. And auto, it looks like they are set to go. So we're good to go on the blowers. Auto temp is as required. It says required. I think it's supposed to say as required, but we'll throw that down to auto as well. And the environmental mode control is supposed to be off. And that's the temperature knob there, and that's the environmental mode control, and it is in the off position. So we're going to go on that. Overspeed and stall warning is supposed to be tested. That's this one. And it is indeed annoying. So it works. Engine fire extinguisher is supposed to be tested. Now you may recall we tried this before. You test them by flipping them up, and you're supposed to see something on this guy up here change, but no matter what I try, I never see a change. However, when we do the test for the B extinguishers, we do see the lights pop up here. So we know they're working. Maybe the A extinguishers aren't working. Cabin air and co-pilot air are as desired. That's basically air conditioning right here. It is Phoenix, so we're going to hop on. We're going to pop on both of those because it gets a little warm out here. Static air source, I have been unable to find the static air source for the co-pilot. However, for the pilot, the alternate static source is right there. Somehow I missed that on the checklist, but there it is. And that is our before start checklist, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to fire up the engines on this bad boy. And remember, it's a pretty quick procedure. So once we get started, we're just going to roll right through it. So there's that little that my wife hates so much. Haven't seen any comments yet on whether or not anybody's annoyed by that. If you are, please let me know. If you weren't before and you are now that I said something, feel free to share that in the comments as well. So the way this is going to start here is we're going to flip on the right ignition and engine start switch, which is going to be, where are you at? Now I'm lost. Ignition and engine start is right here. So that one gets flipped on, and you can already hear it happening. See, so let me turn it back off for the moment. So when we flip that guy on, the right condition lever is going to go to low idle after the N1 accelerates beyond 12%. This is your N1, so when that goes beyond 12%, this guy gets moved to low idle. Once, while that's happening, we're going to be monitoring our temperature. Make sure it's not going above 1,000 degrees. That's this guy all the way up here. 1,000 degrees is way up top there. We're going to be good to go on that. It is, after all, a simulated aircraft, and we haven't had any issues with that so far. We're going to check our right oil pressure, which is... My brain's not totally in it right now. Our oil pressure and our oil temperature are both right here, and we're going to check both of those. The switch, the ignition and start switch, is going to go off once this hits 50% or above, which happens pretty quick. So basically what's going to happen, and once that's done, we will move the right condition lever to high idle, and then we'll flip on the right generator, which is this guy right here. And then we're going to do the same thing for the left engine. So it's going to go really quick. In case you don't remember, the auto ignition switch is already on, so we're going to flip this guy on. As soon as that goes past 12%, we're going to move this guy to low idle. Well, once that happens, we're going to be watching this guy up here to make sure the temperature doesn't go too high, and we're going to be checking on our oil pressure and temperature. And really quickly, this is going to go above 50%. We're going to have to hop back down here and turn that switch off. We're going to move this guy up to high idle, all the way up top, and then we will flip on the right generator. There it is. You ready for this? It's going to happen fast. So let's go ahead and kick it off. So you can see it's already cranking up right there. As soon as she gets to 12% or higher. And you may remember before, because it really starts slowing down right before 12. So just before 12%, I come over here, I throw this on the low idle. And there she is. And it's already past 50%. So let's go ahead and flip that off. And we'll go up here and we'll watch our temperature. It's 630, 20, coming back down below 600. We're good to go here. We're going to check on our oil pressure and temperature real quick. We're at about 100 psi on the oil. And we're looking pretty good on the temperature as well. Looks like it's about 25 or 30 degrees Celsius. So our temperature is going to be really good to go there as well. So in other words, it's not too high. And in case you're wondering how high is too high, we're looking for what? Red lines, right? If you go into red lines, yellows are caution, reds are danger. We're not in a red line, so we're good to go. And now we need to flip on our right generator. That's this guy right here. Bam, he is on. And the tie open annunciator should be extinguished. And I don't see a tie open annunciator, so we are good to go. If I'm wrong on that, please go ahead and let me know in the comments. Just be gentle. And what does that leave us with? Our right engine's running. It says for the bus sense switch, we hold the reset for approximately 5 seconds. I don't know which one that is. Here we go. Reset. And I guess that's it. Reset. Alright. And you're supposed to... Oh, that's if the light doesn't extinguish for the generator tie-in, which it's not on, so I guess we didn't need to do that. Awesome. Alright, and what does that leave us with? We are ready to kick off the start of the left engine. Now, the procedure is going to be the same. The left engine ignition and start switch is going to be flipped on. Once we go past 12% up here, we're going to go ahead and move to low idle with our fuel mixture, and we're gonna that's gonna fire the engine right there. When it goes past 50%, the switch goes off and everything else is monitoring. So let's go ahead and just kick that off. If you have any questions, just watch closely. There she goes on. Waiting for 12% up here. About 12%. We'll get to about 11.5. We'll go ahead and flip it on. There we go. Go to low idle here. And just like that, she fires right up past 50%. So we'll flip that off. And we're monitoring our temperature here. Went up to 680. It looked like almost 700 is the highest. not too big a deal. Down here, check on our oil pressure, about the same, about 100 psi, and our temperature looks about the same, around 25 or 30 degrees Celsius. So we are good to go. All that leaves is the left generator. Bam. That's that. Now we're supposed to check our voltages on the battery, the right and left generator, the center bus, the TPL bus, and external power, which means we're gonna hop up top here. And external power is supposed to be 0. It's not. Apparently we still have external power connected. Let me figure that one out in a second. Let's go ahead and just push on forward for the moment here. So next we've got the center bus is, where are we at? Center bus, center bus. Now I gotta find it on the checklist. 27.5 to 29 volts, and that looks pretty close, right? And the same can be said for the right and left generators. They are supposed to be the same. So you see it didn't move. Right gen, left gen. There's oh, I'm sorry. I was on center bus. External power is off like it's supposed to be. Center bus is 22 or 23, which is not right. Nothing I can do about it. Left gen, right gen are good. TPL bus is supposed to be 26.5 to 28. It is way too low, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's okay though. Other than that, we check our load meters. They should be paralleled within 10%. They are. We're good to go on those. Real quick, I'm just going to flip on a couple of lights here so I don't forget them later on. And that really completes our startup checklist. We do not need to do the engine clearing or restart because our engine started without a problem. However, what is not on that checklist, you may remember, is the avionics. And that's actually part of the before taxi checklist. So we're going to kick off the before taxi checklist so that we can go ahead and push back and get out of here. Now we could have done a pushback before. I know that's probably a better way to do things, but we didn't because I wasn't paying attention. So we'll just have to push back with engines running. So let's go ahead and do our before taxi checklist real quick. Then we'll push back and we'll be ready to rock and roll. So we need our panel lights are as required. We don't need any panel lights. It's daytime. Exterior lights, we got a couple of those on. We're gonna be needing taxi lights. I know I'm shining them in the eyes of the guys that are gonna be pushing back, but you know what? They'll live. They'll be all right. They're tough. And there is no cabin sign. The avionics need to come on at this point. All right. So the avionics switch. Let's just hop down here. The avionics switch is gonna be right here. Bam. But you see, we didn't get all our avionics. Why is that? That's because the IFAS power switches are off. Remember, we had to make sure those were off as part of our before start checklist. That's the IFAS power switches right there. They are now on, and look at that. We've got avionics going through their startup procedure, and so we'll be good to go on those here momentarily. Flight data recorder we're not using. Bleed air valves need to be open now. Here's our bleed air valves. Open is all the way up. They are now open. Environmental mode control, that's this guy, needs to be set to auto. Bam, there it is. You can hear it starts making noise right away. Instruments are already set to auto. We don't need brake de-ice. And we don't have power steering, so we'll check our brakes after pushback, and that is the before taxi checklist. Alright, so we just had a quick pause there. You can see I've already gone ahead and pushed the aircraft back. We've already done our before taxi checklist, so we're basically ready to start taxiing out. Just a couple quick notes. The glare shield indicator lights test switch is actually this guy right here. I'm an idiot. I knew where it was, and for some reason I forgot. So you just push that real quick, and that makes sure that all of these lights are working, as you can see right here. Also, I've gone ahead and set our altimeter. It's 29er, currently at Phoenix, and the wind is 208 at 8 knots, and we're going to be taking off on runway 25 right. So we got a little ways to taxi out here, so let's go ahead and get started on that. Our parking brake's already been removed, so we're just going to start pulling on out here. So we can get the aircraft start pulling forward. And here we go. little touchy with the turboprops here. You know, once you get it going, it wants to go, and then you back it off a little bit, and it wants to stop. So, kind of a bit of a pain there, but let's go ahead and get her going here. And one thing about taxiing, if you're unawares, you can taxi faster. I talked about it before. I think the maximum speed for small aircraft is 20 knots, 15 or 20 knots, and larger aircraft can do up to 30 knots. But the catch is this: you got to make these turns while you're taxiing, and the aircraft gets very unstable very quick. And remember, now we're simulating a three-dimensional world on a two-dimensional screen here, and if we try to make these turns too quick, what ends up happening? Well, we can't see what we're doing, we can't see where we're going, and we end up overshooting our intended or our desired location there. So you can see this thing really wants to go. That's one of the little things. You can see it comes around that. See how quick it comes around that corner there? Yeah. So a little easier to taxi the real aircraft in the real world, but you know, that's just one of those things we deal with. You know, the catch is you can see we're picking up speed pretty quick, but if I just back these engines off a little bit, I mean, I'm not backing them off much right here, and this thing will want to come to a stop pretty quick. So, of course, if you don't move them evenly, the unilateral thrust can be an issue as well. So sometimes you just use a little bit of the differential braking there, and that helps you keep it in line. We did manage to slow her down a little bit. I'm sure you don't want to watch me taxi all the way to the end of this runway. We got a little ways to go yet. You can tell by the big blue building over here that this is default scenery for Phoenix Sky Harbor. Alright, that big blue building doesn't exist. That is Terminal 4 over there. It is semi-decent representation of it. There are a couple companies that do some pretty good payware add-ons for Phoenix Sky Harbor. They look fantastic, but we're going to hold off on those for the moment. Not real big on getting payware airports, simply because why do I want to spend a lot of money on something if I'm not going to fly into it a lot? Now, that being said, that doesn't mean I don't want to get any, because some of them are just fantastic, and I love flying in and out of Phoenix. But I think we're just kind of holding off at the moment on that, and we're going to be looking at getting some of those later on down the road. But we're cruising along right now. I'm sure that 737 is going to cut in front of us, but I'm going to go ahead and break away for a second here, and I will see you at the end of the runway so we can do our before takeoff checklist. Alright, here we are at the end of runway 25 right. Just a few more items to take care of, and we will be ready to get her in the air and start heading on over to Silver City. So a couple things we need to look at here real quick. We want to look at our ground proximity warning system, and there's a test switch for that right here, and you just push it like that.
Glide slope. Pull up. Pull up.
That's it. Test complete. It's working. Fantastic. Flight director, we want to check that. It's good to go. It's rocking and rolling. Let's see what else here. Pressurization, we've checked that. That's good. We set our elevator trim for takeoff earlier, in case anybody's wondering. Flaps need to be set. I have already set those. Takeoff flap setting is this guy right here. Not really sure why. Oh, I know exactly why that's doing that. Because our autopilot here, let's just pop that up real quick, has got its, yeah, see, for some reason the autopilot appears to have turned itself on. Not really sure why that happened. I didn't do it. Did you? Alright, so you can see it trim the plane all the way down, and that is not going to do us much good for takeoff. We want to trim that bad boy back up. Hopefully we're not trimming it too far here, and we should be good to go for takeoff. Flight controls, we've already checked, but just to show you, you want to check that they're free of movement, that they're correct. We would take a look, we could even hop out here real quick. We want to make sure that our ailerons in the right direction, elevator, rudders, all moving the way that they should be moving. That's what we're doing with that right there. Engine anti-ice remains on. We don't need any other anti-ice. Our prop pitch levers are going to go all the way forward. So I'll just move those all the way up. You should hear the Sound of the engines change. It didn't change a whole lot, did it? Well, they're all the way forward, so. And our mixture, we don't need it in high idle for takeoff as far as I know, but we'll keep an eye on it. Last few things we got to take care of real quick. We want to verify that our prop levers are full forward. They are indeed full forward, right there. We want to verify that our flaps are set. They are. We've got 2 indicators there telling us that our flaps are set. Turn that off real quick. We want to confirm that our trim is set. We have. Brake de-ice we don't need. Stall warning heat, we want to confirm that's on. That's going to be in the pido heat there. Pido heat, P-dot heat, whatever you want to call it. Stall warning heat. We want to make sure both of those are on. The auto feather is supposed to be armed. That's this guy right here. Auto feather is armed. And transponder is supposed to go on at this point. That's this guy. It doesn't let me actually change the transponder for some reason. So, but I just take a quick look here and it's on. So I can't turn it off. Whatever. Not worried about it. Ice protection as required. Bleed air valves as required. We're going to leave those on. Blowers we're going to leave on. Everything's ready to go. The only thing left to worry about is V1, VR, and or V rotate and V2. And you may remember those are these bugs right here. Obviously V2 is not 220 knots. This is the minimum speed we can climb with one engine on, which we can do it a little slower than 180 knots, but we're going to put it right there. And V rotate is going to be, to be honest with you, we're just guessing here. I did not calculate these. I honestly am not sure how to calculate these. I do know that this is a long runway, and V1 and V rotate technically are going to be right next to each other. We're really just throwing these in here for reference. We're not using call-outs on this. There are no call-outs, so not too worried about it. I think we're good to go here. Anything else? Nope, that's it. From here, it's just takeoff time. So go ahead and roll this guy out here. Oh, there is one thing, you know what? I don't know why it's not on there, but landing lights have to come on before we hop out there on the runway. So the landing lights are on. We want to move our beacon lights to flight. Just so you know, I was actually incorrect. That is ground, all the way down is off. So middle ground, up flight. There we go. We don't need floodlights. We don't need any cabin lights. All of that stuff is good to go. We are ready to rock and roll. Let's get this plane in the air. What do you say? So I guess we're gonna have to wait for this guy. Where did he come from? He must have taxied in from over there. So with no ATC, you can see how that can be a bit of a problem sometimes. So we're gonna go ahead and wait for him to take off, and once he's airborne, we're gonna hop back in here and it'll be our turn. See you in just a minute. Alright, he's off down the runway. You can see off to the left there's another jet aircraft pulling in there, and we're gonna get out of here before he gets in our way. So we're gonna do a rolling takeoff, and we will get ready to rock and roll here. So let's just go ahead and roll on out. We're gonna assume we have clearance from ATC for takeoff. We've done all our pre-flight checks, all our before takeoff checklist. We're gonna do as soon as we're done with our rolling takeoff here, we'll go straight into the after takeoff checklist, or the climb checklist as it is here on the Beech 1900 manual, which a lot of that's just going to be automatic, you know, gear up, flaps up, that sort of thing. So here we go. Alright, let's see if we can keep her straight down the middle of the runway this time, huh? Guess not. This thing's a little squirrely with the flaps and stuff there. Alright, we're rolling. Just keeping an eye on that airspeed there. The airspeed is alive. We're looking pretty good so far. Coming up on just over 100 knots there. We're going to rotate right about 140 just because that's what we decided. We are probably in V1 now. Not enough room left on the runway to stop. Rotate. Up, up, and away. And I don't know what just happened there. It's like, oh, you know what? I do know what happened, actually. Give me just a second. Let me get going here, and I'll tell you what just happened. Okay, gear up. We got positive rate of climb, so we're going to bring the gear up. Gear is traveling right now.
Gear up.
And there's our indicator from our first officer. You can see right here that we're not flying out all that far, and we're going to be making a left turn here. We will be using the autopilot, but not quite yet. Let's go ahead and trim it down just a little bit, and just want to get the nose down a little bit so that we can bring those flaps up. So we need a little bit more speed, and then we'll bring our flaps up. So on takeoff, the reason you saw it dip to the left like that is we actually took off pretty quick behind that. Looked like it was maybe an MD-80. We were pretty quick taking off behind him, and if you don't know what wake turbulence is, it is the wake vortex that's put off the wings of an aircraft. All aircraft do it. The bigger they are, the stronger the vortex. So when an aircraft larger than us, let's go ahead and bring flaps up here. When an aircraft larger than us takes off before us, if we take off too soon, that wake turbulence or that wake vortex can affect the handling and the flight characteristics of our aircraft, and it spins like a sideways tornado. So my guess is, since I've got the realism settings cranked all the way up on this guy, that we hit that wake vortex and it made our left wing dip a little bit there. Pretty cool actually when you think about it. Probably a little scary in real life. Okay, let's take a look at this after takeoff checklist real quick. Let me just get a little bit of trim in here. Alright, flaps are up, environmental mode control is good, bleed air valves are supposed to be as required. I'm sorry, bleed air valves, let's see, up, auto, bleed air valves are open. So let's take a look real quick at our bleed air valves and make sure they're open. Bleed air valves, they are indeed open, so we're good to go there. And it is the blowers that are as required, and we're going to leave those where they're at. There is no yaw damper. Climb power, which means we can go ahead and roll those throttles back a little bit. We need to start our left turn here. Okay, roll those throttles back a little bit. And bring that prop pitch back a little bit so we can bring that prop RPM down. You see, if you look there, you can see the prop RPMs come down. We'll get around 1500 here. I'm going to leave my power where it's at for now. My torque's not too high, so we're good to go there. Just going to continue this left turn now real quick. We're going to take a look here, and let's go ahead and set this for 21,000 feet. Because we hadn't done that yet. Quick there we go. 21,000 feet. And let's pop on our nav. That is my phone ringing. Let me silence that. Sorry about that. Pop on my nav, altitude select, and then we gotta pop this guy open, put the autopilot on. The nav is gonna kick in. We're gonna keep an eye on our speed right here. Oh man, I'll tell you, I know what it did. It does this to me almost every time. See that? Put it down to 4,000 feet. Even though I hit altitude select. Okay, let's go altitude hold. And see, it's not letting me change it. I know why. Okay, so it's actually flying the nav from the FMS on here for some reason, even though it typically doesn't do that when you have this guy on. We talked about that before, but that's what it's flying right now. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and let it do it for a minute. We've got our after takeoff checklist done. You can see we're climbing out. This is called South Mountain here. We're climbing out over South Mountain. And we're going to head to the south a little bit to TFD, which is a VOR out here. And then we'll be heading on our way from there over to New Mexico. So let's let it fly the FMS for the moment. I'm going to go ahead and hop off of here while we start climbing up towards cruise altitude. And when we get towards or closer to our top of descent, I will be coming back on here with you, and we'll start setting up for our descent, our final approach, and hopefully what will be a much smoother landing than some of those that we've had in the past. It's a beautiful view, isn't it? Look at the detail on the windows there. Big difference when you have a better computer setup, isn't it? Look at that. That is just beautiful. It should be good smooth frames, maybe a tiny bit of chop as as I roll this camera around here, but realistically, I'll tell you what, folks, that's something else, huh? Alright, so I will leave you with that parting view over the golf course. And here we are at cruise altitude. Just a couple things to take care of for your cruise checklist. We want to set our cruise power, which we have for now. We're probably going to be bringing that back just a little bit. In fact, we can go ahead and just roll those back just a hair right now. Bring it down just a couple notches. We just don't want to get over our maximum speed here, which is indicated by the red and white needle there. We want to make sure that our auto feather is off, and I've already turned it off. That's this one right here. So flip off the auto feather, and pretty much just monitoring our engine instruments. We're going to monitor fuel flow, make sure it continues to flow regularly. We want to monitor our oil pressure and oil temperature for both engines, and we're also going to be keeping an eye on our fuel quantity. Now, I didn't actually calculate the fuel for this. I just left it full, which was actually stupid because we're going to burn more fuel because we're carrying more fuel. What I should have done is I should have made sure that we had just the proper amount of fuel for the flight. That was my mistake. So that's going to cost us as far as our profit margin for the airline is concerned, and hopefully they won't take it out of our paycheck. Other than that, we're simply going to monitor and wait for descent. And of course, we will have our descent checklist. Will come up just before we start to descend. If anybody wants to call me on it, yes, we are at 21,300, not 21,000. And that is just because the autopilot, for whatever crazy little reason, didn't actually want to hold 21,000. It insisted on being a little higher, and it was going up, down, up, down, up, down, and that is just annoying. So I went ahead and I flipped it on over, or I just let it go on up to 21,300, and it's staying there just fine. So we're going to go ahead and leave it there. We'll be as right as rain. We're about to make our turn here. There it is right there from Olin, which is just a waypoint on our route to SSO, which is the San Simon VOR. And then from there we'll be continuing on to Silver City with just a couple other waypoints in between. So I will see you again when we get close to the top of descent. Oh, looks like we got a little rain out there. Oh, really? What is our outside air temperature? Pop quiz, anybody know why I'm asking that? The reason that I want to know our outside air temperature, yeah, okay. See, now it's starting to mess around again. Probably hitting some turbulence there. See, it's starting to go up, down, up, down. That's going to be all kinds of fun. I'll deal with that in a couple minutes. The reason I want to know the outside air temperature, and it should be on here somewhere, I'll find it in a few minutes, but if it's cool enough outside, then we are going to need to turn on our anti-ice. Otherwise we could be in trouble. And I'm not sure where to find the temperature, so I'll play with that while we're cruising along, and I will see you guys just before top descent. Alright, we're just a few miles from top of descent here, so we're going to go over the descent checklist real quick. And it's really a pretty short checklist, but we'll just go through it here. Pressurization needs to be set. That's already taken care of. The altimeter, it says to set the altimeter, but we're at 21,000 feet. We're not going to change the altimeter until we drop below 18,000 feet. So we'll worry about that once we get down there. Windshield anti-ice is as required. It's not cold enough. We don't need it. But if the temperature is above 10 degrees Celsius, which it is, we need to make sure the prop de-ice is off, which it is. We want to check our fuel balance real quick. And as you can see, our fuel is pretty well balanced, even though we definitely have too much of it. Power is as required for the desired rate of descent. We'll set that once we actually start descending here very shortly. Cabin signs, we don't have them, so we're not worried about them. And that is all until we get to the before landing checklist. So let's get ready to descend. We're pretty much at our top of descent at this point, so let's just make sure that everything's set up over here. You can see that our FMS, our mildly crude FMS, is set. We want to be at 10,000 feet when we get to Silver City, 9,000 feet at Cozy, and so on. So really, we're just kind of waiting. As you can see here, well, it's going to let us do it now. So let's go ahead and roll this down to 10,000 feet to start with, because that's our next altitude. Let's set it to 10,000 feet, hit altitude select, and she's not doing anything. So try it again. Come on. Okay, altitude. Hold. And now good. Yeah, I know why. It's being a pain, but it's our vertical speed. We have to adjust the vertical speed on it. It's kind of a pain, but it is what it is. So roll this down to 10,000 feet. I'm still learning a few of the quirks of this aircraft. You'll have to forgive me and bear with me, but we will get there. We'll get there together. So here we go, and we're definitely going to need to bring those throttles back here in a little bit, but right now we're just descending at 800 feet per minute, which I already know is not going to be fast enough. Just going to bring that down. Let's bring it down to 15 for the moment. And let's just try and get where we need to be on it. We're going to need to bring those throttles back, obviously, because otherwise we're going to go way too fast. So just roll those back before that speed gets too high there. Speed's always a tricky thing. You know, you go too fast, it's kind of a pain to slow down, but then again, you get too slow and you're going to stall the aircraft. So you really just gotta stay on it constantly. It's nice when you get into some of the jet aircraft that have auto throttles and stuff like that. It certainly makes throttle control for descent, climb, and other phases a lot simpler. But we don't mind doing manual controls here. It's not an issue. We're looking good at 1,500 feet per minute right now. We could probably actually stand to go just a little quicker down, because we got a little ways to go. Believe it or not, Silver City's just pretty much dead ahead of us here. We don't have that far to get to Silver City. In fact, let me show you here. After I roll these throttles back a little bit, I mean we're just about on top of it here. So I don't know if we're not gonna get a good view from here. It gets a little loud when I do this, but that's Silver City right there, and we are landing on the runway coming this way. That way. So we still got a ways to go to get down, but that's all right because we have to go past the airport and come back. And one of the things about speed when it comes to your rate of descent, the faster we're flying forward as we descend, the more ground we cover for every 1,000 feet we drop down, which makes sense. So when we slow the aircraft down, in a sense,
we're passing transition altitude, Captain.
Even though we're still only dropping at 1,800 feet per minute, the distance we cover horizontally across the ground during that minute is much less. So that technically gets us down quicker. And there's that point where we get our little alarm for bringing our throttles down just a little too far. So let's keep them up just a little bit. And let's see what we got here. We're going to just roll this all the way down. The airport is at 5,445 feet. So we are looking to bring this, the lowest we're going to go is 6,700 feet. And that'll put us on our final approach fix. So we're doing pretty good there. I'm just looking real quick to try and grab my weather here. Where is it at? It's not showing up on here. I do need to get my altimeter setting, so I'm going to hop over and grab that real quick, and I will meet you back here for our final approach. I'll meet you back before that, but let me go grab that weather real quick. Okay, I got our altimeter setting. It was 2996, and our wind is going to be 210 at 12 knots. And we're going to be landing on runway 26. We're going to fly the localizer approach. It is not an ILS. You can see we're still descending 2,000 feet per minute. I'm trying to get down to 8,800 feet here, and then we'll see where we're at if we need to make an adjustment to our descent at that point. In the meantime, let's go ahead and do our before landing checklist, because things are going to get really busy really quick here. Our approach speeds are confirmed. We're going to fly the approach at about 130 knots until we get close to touchdown, and we're going to slow it to about 120. The cockpit door or curtain, it says it's supposed to be open, so it'll be open. We need to turn our auto feather back on, or we need to arm our auto feather. Our pressurization is good. We can check it, but we already know it's good. Flaps are going to be 17 degrees. We're not going there yet. We're not bringing the landing gear down yet. But those are going to be the last couple of things we do as we get ready to turn on to final here. So we'll actually be making a large sweeping right turn to final here shortly. And right now, I'm just going to work on flying this airplane and try not to kill anybody, huh? That would probably be bad. You can see our autopilot altitude set for 6,700 feet. We don't want to drop below 8,800 feet at this point, which we're looking good so far. We're just a little over 10,600 feet coming up right now. It's actually making this turn really sharp. It shouldn't be, but it is. So this is probably going to be a little tight on the landing. I was hoping to have a little more room to work with. I don't know why it's decided to turn so tight, but it is what it is. So, beautiful view up here. Well, maybe. That's not a very
below
beautiful
10,000
view.
feet.
We do need to flip on our landing lights real quick. We'll go ahead and flip those on, and the taxi lights. Everything else is pretty much good to go as is. I don't think we need to make any other changes. Just need to be ready to fly the airplane here. Yeah, you can hear me grunting and huffing and puffing around here. I'm actually just making some adjustments to my seat as we make this turn. We actually turned a little wide. You'll see as we come around here, the airport's actually back over that way a little bit. But we've got a little room to work with still. And we're looking for that 6,700 feet. We shouldn't have any issues clearing these mountains here, so we'll just let her come back around, and I'm going to just let it drop on down to 6,700 feet so it can start slowing itself down here shortly, which we're going to definitely need to do because we're going to need to bring in those flaps. And yeah, so we're looking pretty good right now. We're about 14 miles from the airport where we're at right now. So let's get her on down to 6,700 feet, and we should be good to go. And we can actually reduce that rate of descent a little bit now. So we just bring that on up to 1,000 feet per minute. That'll help us start slowing down a little bit, and we should make 6,700 feet by our next waypoint. Well, we want to be at 7,600 right now, technically, so let's just go ahead and bring that up to 0. Kind of flying this by the seat of my pants. You can see we got all red lights on our VASI or PAPI lighting there, so we're definitely a little bit low, so definitely a good idea to bring that vertical speed on up to 0 there. It's still actually descending at 500 feet per minute. I think it's just because we're dropping speed as we go here. We're going to need to bring in a little bit of throttle anyway. And at this point, we're going to make sure that our prop pitch is all the way forward, prop control's all the way forward. You can hear those engines spooling up a little bit. RPM's coming up, and we're leveling out now. And now we can go ahead and let her come on down to she just wants to hold altitude. Yeah, she made it on down to 6,700 anyway. So let's go ahead and just turn that off because we're going to be flying this manually here shortly. Bring those throttles back a little bit. Need to get that speed down. I want to get into this white arc here. This is what I'm looking for my flaps. And you know, when in doubt, in this aircraft, you can look right here, gear extension at 180. So I can do it right now, and I could extend my flaps when I'm at 188. So technically we could extend the flaps right now because we're definitely below that. So let's go ahead and throw in that first flap setting, and let's just make sure it's in there, and it is. bring
Gear
that
down.
gear down. Gear's coming down. That's going to slow us down substantially. And as soon as our lights get where we want them right there, let's go ahead and go full flaps. And there we go. Let's go ahead and take that autopilot off. I'm just going to let her kind of descend on her own for a second. Let's go ahead and make sure we turn those off. And we're just going to fly her in. And she's trying to descend pretty quick on us there. We don't want that. Let's keep an eye on that descent right here. There we go. Yeah, looks like we're a little off course there. We're doing alright. Doing alright. We want to land this one smooth. And we're just over 120 knots. We said we want to be between 120 and 130 knots. So we're looking pretty good there. Our descent rate's probably a little high for our speed right now. But that's alright. We'll just keep an eye on it. We do definitely have a crosswind, a pretty strong one. We're going to be dealing with that. It's 9 knot crosswind. That's our crosswind component. I calculated that already. So that's why you see we're just kind of drifting a little bit here. Our descent rate's actually looking pretty good. We're just going to go to visual flight here. And we're just going to bring her in. You can see it's coming up just a little bit. Our speed's holding really good. It's actually a pretty stable approach. Looking good. We should get a 500-foot call here very shortly.
500.
And there it is. And that's the only call we get in this Coronado. I do have a little freeware add-on that I found that, just a little low there, just bringing those up just a hair, that I can put on here that'll give us call-outs all the way down to the ground. I may add that in here a little bit later, but for right now, I'm okay with this. We're just going to do it visually. We're going to try and get as smooth as we can without floating too far down the runway. Bring those throttles back just a little more now. So you can see we're just a skosh high, even though it looks like we're on a glide, so we're actually just a little high. And there's about 30 feet, 20 feet. And see, now she's floating just a little on us, just a little. Doing alright. Come on. Fly it to the ground. There it is. Look at that. Minus 64 feet per minute. We're going to need reverse on this. Those brakes in. We don't want to slam them on too hard. Plenty slow there. You can see, whoop, there she's getting squirrely. That's me. That was all my fault. I had the differential braking on. So, I think our co-pilot managed to keep from passing out this time. So that's always a bonus. So round of applause for him for not passing out. Now, one thing I know, you want to get them flaps up relatively soon, because you want to get the air. You want to spoil the air coming over the wings as much as you can. That's actually what ground spoilers are for. They spoil the air coming over the wings and help the airplane stay down on the ground. Now we need a little more throttle there. Come on. There we go. That's going to do that little thing. It's going to see it's going to want to go. All right. So as we start our taxi here, let's go ahead and do our after takeoff our after landing checklist. Power steering we don't have. Prop levers need to go to taxi. So let's take a look over here real quick. And let's pull those prop levers back to taxi, which is going to be right above the feather mode there. Remember correctly, that's taxi mode. That's where we want to be on the prop levers. And what else? Lights are as required. We certainly do not need our landing lights for taxiing. And you can see when we pulled those levers back, boy, she got going, didn't she? So let's just slow down. We need to slow down. Taxi that fast and we're just going to be slipping and sliding all over it, and it is a pain in the butt. Okay, what else? Engine anti-ice needs to come on. We haven't turned that on yet. Remember, for ground operations, your engine anti-ice is supposed to be on. So we want to turn both of those on real quick. And we are still taxiing really quick here. I just want to slow it down a little bit. Yeah, she definitely wants to go on the ground, doesn't she? So engine anti-ice is on. what else? Flaps are already up. We've taken care of that. We're going to need to turn off our stall warning heat. We'll do that here in a minute. We're actually close to parking, so let's go ahead and get this plane in. And we're just going to pull it right straight ahead there. Why not? Nice and easy. So we're going to need to turn off our stall warning heat, which, if you recall, is this guy right here. And just a little off track there. There we go. Nice and slow bringing it in. Left and right pitot heat or pitot heat need to both go off. That's these two right here. About ready to stop and shut down the engines here. So let's go ahead and just pull her to a nice easy stop here. Roll those throttles all the way back. And let's finish our after landing checklist. It was a short taxi, and engine auto ignition is off. I don't know why it would have been on. I didn't see it in the before landing checklist. So why was it on? Did we never turn it off after? I guess we didn't. So auto ignition off. There's that. Prop de-ice is off. Left and right fuel vent heat is off. Alternate static heat is that's the alternate static source. It's off. Transponder, it won't let me turn it to standby. Trim is fine. Flaps are fine. Radar is off. We don't have power steering. Prop levers are in taxi. We're good to go there. And so we should just be ready to shut down now. So parking brake needs to be set. Just so you know, in case anybody's wondering, we're really late on this flight. I need to work on that. No power steering. IFAS power switches need to be off. That's these guys right here. Standby attitude indicator's good. IFAS auxiliary we can't do anything with. The avionics switches both need to be off. Left and right AC bus both need to be off. That's these two here. Those are both off. Oxygen control goes off. I still can't say the word oxygen. Auto feather switch goes off. Come on, turn off. There we go. Lights go off. There's a lot to do, isn't there? We're going to leave these on ground. Our beacon switches on ground because we still have the engines going. Alright, what else? Blowers are good. Environmental mode control needs to go off. That's this guy right here. One click, you can hear it just turned off. And then all we need to do is fuel cut off. Let the engine spool down. Left and right generators off. Battery off. And we are done too. Beautiful stuff. There we are. We are in Silver City. All our checklists are complete. I will be back with you momentarily so that we can take care of our ACARs. Okay, here we are on our ACARs. We are done with our flight. As you can see, we were extremely late by like 35 minutes. That's terrible. I did a terrible job. Nonetheless, we're done with our flight. The engine's shut down. Parking brake is set, so we can go ahead and end flight. Flight is ended. We need to file our PIREP or pilot report so that all the information from our flight gets submitted to the airline. There it is. That's our flight information. We're going to check that off. We are good to go. Done here. Let's hop on over to the website and see where we're at now. Alright, here we are back on our profile page. You can see right here our flight from Phoenix to Silver City. Great Lakes Airlines 7303. See, that whole talking thing, I'm struggling with that. Either way, it's Great Lakes Airlines flight 7307. It has posted, or it has been approved. We'll take a look at the PIREP here in just a second. You can see we got a total of 3 hours and 37 minutes with 3 flights, which leaves us just a little bit under 17 hours to make it to the next rank there. That nice, smooth, soft landing of minus 64.59 feet per minute has brought our landing average down. Yeah, good. I like that. So let's take a real quick look at our pilot report here. Just click on it. jump on in here, and we can see there's our departure and arrival information, basic flight details, just like every other time. This was our departure. This was our arrival, including our landing rate, the amount of fuel we had, all of that good information. You can see that we did have one warning. In case you're wondering, that warning was for that beacon light, because if you remember correctly, I told you I actually had the wrong position for what was considered on and off. There's our flight map, and that is it. We have now completed a total of 3 flights in our career as a virtual airline pilot. I've had a great time with this flight. I think we're moving along nicely. I very much enjoy making these. I'm really having a good time, guys, and I hope that you're enjoying them as well. If you are, please feel free to give a thumbs up down below, and as always, I'm more than happy to take on as many subscribers as I can get, so feel free to subscribe to the channel. Leave any comments, questions, concerns, whatever crosses your mind. Feel free to leave it in the comment section down below. I do ask, however, that you do keep it clean, keep it kind. Let's all have a good time. Be friendly about it. And I'm more than open to suggestions, corrections, any mistakes that anybody sees me making. I'm more than happy to learn from them, because that's what we're here to do. We're having fun, we're learning at the same time, and that's what it's all about. I'm Captain Mac. This was episode number 3 in our Life of a Virtual Airline Pilot, and I can't wait to see you for episode number 4.